on FemTalk 89 FM in Suva and Mombasa or online. I'm Sian Rolls at the Fiji Young Women's Forum Gender Responsive Budgeting Workshop, funded by the United Kingdom's Magna Carta Fund for Human Rights and Democracy, and it's the 16th of June. Fiji's next national budget for 2017 to 2018 is going to be released later this month, on the 29th of June in fact. And over the last 3 days, 27 diverse young women have been unpacking and redefining development, in particular the national budget and its cycle. With me today to share some of their recommendations that they've been discussing and hopes for the next national budget in this episode are Bonito Qio for the Pacific Rainbows Advocacy Network. We also have Jojiana Waqanitoga all the way from Langi, 140 kilometers from Mombasa town. We also have Gorgia Lilo of Alpha, who's taken time away from the busy city of Lautoka to come and talk to us, as well as Sudeshna Singh from the United Blind Persons of Fiji. So we're going to start off the show by talking about what are the recommendations that you feel are important for the national budget. And Sudeshna, you feel in particular that the safety of all women, including women with disabilities, is a priority. How do you want to see that reflected in the national budget?
I want to see there should be more training given to the Fiji police force, because they are lacking that. When we go and do some complaints, like they are neglected, we feel neglected.
So this is your local police post, this is the larger police stations. I mean, gender sensitivity is a major challenge for the security service, so let alone for persons with disabilities. So what are the kinds of special skills you feel they need to have? Is it also about knowing sign language, perhaps?
Sign language, but we also, if somebody needs a sign language, there are people with it. There are people to do or to back up them with sign language.
And have you taken a look at the national budget in terms of any of the allocations for the police force over the past 3 days?
For the police force, there are a lot of crimes happening, but looking at the data-wise, there are none for the people with disabilities.
Right, so in terms of, as we see the trends as they're coming out, they're not really disaggregating according to disability, so it's hard to really give them a concrete recommendation in that regard.
Yeah, it is.
All right, and there are so many other issues that we're wanting to discuss at the table, and before going along to my right, we'll also talk to Bonito Qio. So, Bonita, you also have a bit of a funding issue that you want to discuss, but it's beyond just allocating for training and resourcing. It's primarily about the minimum wage.
Yes, I speak from experience from a person coming from a very industrialized community, where I see most of the women and most of the LGBT women are part of this, of the particular workforce that I would like to mention, particularly the manufacturing industry. This is government factories and other low-income earning employment. And for that reason, I really feel that there is urgent need to increase the minimum wage to $4. And reason being because I see people that are in government factories that are working for about 15 years that are still getting $80 to $90 a week, and these are women that are breadwinners for their family, and it's quite hard for them to actually put decent food and access information, access service, because they have limited financial support.
And I would imagine that if they also put up the minimum wage, they probably would also have to pay some of the public servants a little bit better as well. So that's really how we'd see it influencing the national budget as well. Are there any policies that you feel have already come out, or any recommendations? I believe it might be an international organization you've been talking about that also has recommended the $4 minimum wage.
Yes, there was a data released by the International Labour Organization in 2015 when they came to Fiji, and that data was given to the to the government of the day, and they were to actually comply with all of that. And in that, the minimum wage had to go up as well as other labor laws. Apart from that, we've been also talking about this at other spaces, especially at the FYWF National Consultation with the Minister for Labour and other relevant authorities that were there. So we had raised it with them, and they had wanted to follow up. So I had asked them to speak to the women themselves that are involved in these manufacturing industries, particularly in Lautoka. So they got the feedback for themselves, and now they are realizing that it's an urgent need, that there are people that are suffering because of the minimum wage.
And while there has been some social wages sort of introduced, like the free bus fares, the free medicine, and otherwise, there are still so many challenges, and people can't make do with the $2.32 that they're currently getting, or the $2.52, which is the new, perhaps new minimum wage that's being discussed after they had some national consultations. Thank you so much, Bonita. And now we're going to cross over from Lautoka before coming back to Lautoka, but go all the way out to Langi. For the rest of the segment, we'll be primarily talking about maternal health and maternal health care. Jojiana, how do you see the services in your community, and what are the recommendations that you feel are critical?
Thank you. Well, the services in our community is, what I can say, it's poor. And I would like to recommend for more health facilities, and a fully equipped health center in all rural areas, not only for us at Langi village.
And if they don't want to upgrade, maybe they could build the roads, the 140 kilometers, because otherwise it's hard to get to Langi.
Yep.
And for you, Georgia, what do you feel is important? What are your recommendations for the national budget?
I'm going to discuss maternal health primarily in urban areas. So what I've noticed is how, so Jojiana brought her perspective from a rural woman, and I'm bringing mine as an urban woman. However, I'm not a mother, so I can't really speak personally from personal experiences, but I have young women friends and colleagues and whatnot, that have had children and gone through the health system in Fiji in an urban area. So Lautoka Hospital, I'm not sure if everybody's aware of this, but there have been a few cases this year where children and mothers have had either serious infections or died. And the ministry has launched several investigations and whatnot into this, but very little comes out of it. And I feel like for the betterment of our country, the health care system for women needs to be upgraded.
And not just in Suva where they're looking to expand the wings.
But it's gotten to the point where in Lautoka, if a pregnant woman goes in for a checkup, a friend of mine had a baby last month, and a month before she had her baby, she started to bleed a lot. So she went to Lautoka Hospital, and she asked to lie down, and they put a mattress on the floor in the hallway and told her to lie down, which I thought was just disgusting. And she's from a very good family and can afford to go to private healthcare, but that's not the case for everybody in the urban area, I feel. And there are still a lot of squatter settlements and people who cannot afford to access good healthcare. So I feel like if the budget allocates more to just primarily and just maternal healthcare, not healthcare as a broad subject, but just maternal healthcare, I think it'd be better for the country.
Thank you so much, Georgia. And Jojiana, how do you see, as a mother, the kinds of services that are being provided that you feel are, gaps that you hope are addressed by the next national budget?
For young mothers, for 3 months ago we had 2 cases up at the health center. So the mother came out outstanding. She was healthy, but baby was sick. And so they couldn't apply the medicine or the equipment at that time. They had to wait for the ambulance. And it takes 2.5 to 3 hours as Sean have mentioned, we live at 140 kilometers away from La Paz town. So due to this, it is very expensive.
Yeah, it's a challenge to get to the divisional hospital in Mombasa.
It is a very big challenge due to also the income of the family. Yes, living at the family, we just put up programs as young women in order to help each other.
So what are some of those programs that you're having to run because it's so hard to actually connect to the major town center?
Thank you. For us, the young women at the village, we are, as Lang is the main center where people come and get off to go up or through the coastal line, the main pit stop. So we sometimes get together to cook, to prepare, so they come, they buy their food and they go. Even in the morning for them to come down to town, we always wake up early. We could make tea or samosa, anything that will suit our budget, the money that we have.
So this is also something that you're doing without any kind of project assistance, right? This is something you guys are just doing through your own ingenuity.
Yes.
And so I guess again, in terms of the national budget, how is it not just responding to the immediate needs, but also investing in young women as entrepreneurs would also help support that kind of thing? Because it takes a long time to upgrade a health center or build a hospital. And so very much that, how do you say, economic security is critical so that you can have that access to healthcare.
Yes.
And coming back across to Sudeshna, I want to hear a little bit more in terms of the personal security of young women living with disabilities. I imagine that some of the problems are not just because the police force isn't sensitized or the police force isn't well-resourced. Where are some of the challenges and the personal insecurities that young women with disabilities are facing? What are the kinds of personal insecurities they're facing? What are the problems? Is it street harassment? Is it just fear of safety? What kinds of needs do the police need to respond to?
Like when the people with disabilities go on streets, for example, they go for walks or maybe just to fresh out, they feel insecure because there are less street lights. People can come and just people just come and arrest them, or even they talk badly to them. So they also go through discrimination.
So they need somebody there to help them in the public, and somebody who should be responsive to individuals' needs. In terms of getting around safely, what are some of the infrastructural barriers to young women living with disabilities? You have a visual impairment, but we also had young women with other physical disabilities, and you know numerous young women as well as older women through your networks. How accessible are the towns and cities in Fiji?
The town is not that accessible because some of the buildings, they don't have ramps or they don't have railings whereby they can use. And those who cannot see, who are totally blind, they do have a cane, but due to discrimination, they don't hardly use it.
Because they feel uncomfortable with people seeing them using their canes?
Yes, even going into the buses with the bus pass, the driver will just tell them, I'm not going to accept this.
So clearly sensitization beyond just the police force, but maybe starting with the police force.
Yes, that's true.
Thank you, Sudeshna. Bonita, as you see it, clearly some employers might say, don't just put up the minimum wage because, maybe their skills aren't developed and other things like that. So do you feel that there needs to be maybe some upskilling as well that comes with an increase in minimum wage so that employees might feel it's better? Or do you just feel that it's an unjust allocation to have $2.32 per hour? How would you describe the skills of these women?
Maybe I would say both, because the government have done their part and they have provided a lot of technical college in every centers, particularly they're based in central areas such as schools. So we won't say that earning less would be an excuse, or maybe not getting the skill would be an excuse, because the programs are there to support low-income people, particularly those that they don't excel in education. This kind of training is provided for them. But on the other note, I also see that getting $80 to $90 a week may impact your family in terms of accessing proper health care. You may not afford proper health care. You may not afford basic amenities or needs or wants for the family, like completing the payment for your electricity bill. So sometimes you have to cut short on some of the budget, and it impacts the whole family as a whole, especially the budget, because this provides the security for the family. And at the end of the day, when this all happens, when the family comes and sit on a round table to enjoy the meal, they don't get to enjoy a very healthy meal. So how can you expect the children to go to school and produce good results, because you're not giving them what they want? The children have their needs, the parents have their needs, the mothers have their needs, we all have our needs. But these needs to be all fulfilled, and it can be fulfilled much better if we have sufficient income to cater for all of these expenses.
Yeah, because then if you are depending on the social income, things that are free, that's also a huge burden on the government budget, as we've been seeing this week. And lastly, Georgia, now I'm going to ask you a question. What are some of the shorter term needs, do you think, of young women in particular? I mean, it might be that maternity health is a little bit under strain because we aren't yet able to get proper access to SIHR and other materials. So is that perhaps a contributing factor?
I feel, SIHR would impact more if it were taught in schools. I think maybe the government should think about, I know because Fiji is still a very conservative country, as we're mostly Christian, but we also have, Hinduism, Islam, whatnot. So I feel that if they introduce SRHR education in schools, it'd be a bit better for young women, especially women who think, if I have sex without a condom, I won't get pregnant. If he does it a certain way, I won't get pregnant. And then they end up getting pregnant, which becomes more of an issue in the sense of maternal health because they can't be provided for. So I think as a young woman, I went through the public education system through most of my primary and high school years, and I noticed that there was very little emphasis put on that. Like even family life class was more about, role plays on pregnant teenagers rather than teaching you not to get pregnant, which I thought was complete rubbish. And I felt like I had to do all my learning on my own in that sense, and I think that the government should really fix that, because not every child will take the initiative to learn on their own.
Okay, and that also requires resources, because then you have to go through the whole curriculum development unit, you have to make sure that they have the right materials as well, so, prevention then response might be a good way of going about it in the shorter term, until we have enough money to extend some of our maternity wings. And we've come to the third part of our program today, where we're going to talk about representation. I'd like to know a little bit more, Jojiana, about how young women are able to mobilize and engage and also discuss things. I mean, this has been a very interesting space for the last 3 days. 27 diverse young women coming together. There have been some very interesting discussions and engagements, but also a lot of learning. So what do young women need in your community to be able to engage better in these discussions around what does the national budget need to respond to the needs of young women?
Thank you. For us back at the community, we are working together as a group, helping each other out, and also in times of struggle or problems in health. And also giving awareness to our younger women through their for pregnancy, teenage pregnancy awareness, for them to keep them safe as time right now is very costly, it's very expensive. And ambulance is needed, and also medical boat.
So clearly a lot of access to services is important. But when it comes to, for example, learning opportunities like this, so training and that kind of awareness, particularly on national budgets and national budget processes, do you feel like the last 3 days was something new, something valuable to you as a young woman?
Yes, I've done so much, and I know they are all waiting for me to know what I've learned so far. They always be eager to know whenever I go for a consultation. As soon as I get off the truck, they come and start pulling me. Okay, then when are we having our next meeting? They are so wanting to learn. And yes, they are all happy and they are learning at the same time.
So these are the young women in the Langi Women's Group. That's great to know, and I hope you make sure that you share some of the materials that you got.
I will.
And for you, Bonita, how do you feel the last 3 days has been important to you, and do you feel like these are the kinds of things that young women need to know to engage in the national budget process? Or what are one or two things you think are critical?
Thank you. To me, I think this such spaces is vital, because for one reason, the government have rectified CEDAW, the government have adopted the gender policy, the government have, apart from these two major policies, the government have made a commitment, and that is commitment towards women. And what we're doing now is just following up on that. It's just doing the same thing. But this space is basically for younger women. Now that we know that the election is coming next year, something that we normally see when we draw towards election is that this politician brings out all these issues again and say all these things just to maybe win their vote, but they are accountable to their commitment as government to CEDAW, to the gender policy, and these are not blank papers that are lying on top of their desk. They need to take action. We are taking the lead as young women. We are convening our own spaces, and we are projecting our voice at national level, at regional level. We are speaking up. Because of this, we know that we are all committed. We know that we are all accountable. But at the end of the day, it's how we keep pushing our issues. That's why I really feel that these kind of spaces is very important, particularly when we prioritize budget priorities for young women. It's very important, because if you want to win the election, then you need to consider everyone. And if you consider everyone, leave no one behind.
Thank you, Bonita. And Sudeshna, for you, you said that the public space is not always a space that feels safe for young women with disabilities, that feels safe for anyone with disabilities. So do you feel that these kinds of spaces, these opportunities to learn about national budget processes are integral to ensuring that young women, including young women with disabilities, have a voice?
Yes, they must. It is sure that they need to be heard in the general public. They need their way to be given. Go to a workshop or wherever they are in a meeting, they can voice up their voices or their ideas, what they have. Because if they don't say, they won't get.
So it's a critical component of democratization. We can't just say we have elections, we have democracy. We need to invest in young women, including diverse young women, all young women.
Yeah, it's all.
Thank you, Sudeshna. And as we end our program today, let's end with Georgia. Georgia, the Emerging Leaders Forum Alumni, is a bit of a different network of young women. They, don't have an office. They don't have the resources to meet on a regular basis, but you all stay in touch and you all look for opportunities like this. Is that because you feel that it's an important space in this whole big world of democratization, you know, in terms of improving yourself and finding a voice as a young woman?
Well, see, before I came to this, I had absolutely no idea that gender-responsive budgeting was even a thing. So I got an email from Mamta, one of the Alpha coordinators, or one of the Alpha people, and I saw that, you know, I was looking at it and I Googled it and I did some research, and I had read Rhonda Sharp's book last year, the one she released in 1999, I think, Women and Economic Policies. So as soon as I Googled it and did some research, I figured, you know, I really wanted to I wanted to come here because I wanted to learn. And I think as a young woman, there are very little opportunities like this for diverse young women to come together as a group for a few days to actually learn. And this was a really good space because we all learned and it was really safe and enjoyable. I think more of this needs to be done just to educate people.
All right, and thank you so much. And I hope that there are always going to be more opportunities to resource these kinds of spaces because, as we were told on day one as part of the intergenerational open dialogue, it needs to continue. There's so much to build up on, you know, not just technological advances, but the women's movement needs to grow, and so young women need to grow with it. And thank you so much for joining us on FemTalk 89 FM in Suva and Mombasa if you're listening live, or by joining us online. I'm Sian Rolls. Thank you for watching or listening.